the Florida Writer Podcast, a discussion about writing and other things.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast with your host, Alison Nissen. Today, I am lucky enough to have with me Hannah Edington Tekle. Hannah, could you give us a 60-second elevator pitch about who you are and what you write?
Absolutely. So thank you for having me on today. I am a ghostwriter. I also write personally. So the work that I do for myself, I do a lot of literary fiction, especially literary fiction that deals with intercultural issues. I've lived all over the world. I'm married to someone who is not an American, and we have a fun intercultural family. So I love to write on those types of topics. In a literary way, both short stories and novels. And then as a ghostwriter, I write a lot of historical fiction. I also do some business because that's more my educational background. So yeah, I do nonfiction. I mainly do business. And then with fiction, I do a lot of historical fiction and clean romance. I've had the opportunity to work with so many different people as a ghostwriter. And in terms of novels, I've written more than 70 novels. So I've had a lot of experience with that and with a lot of different really wonderful clients.
Well, Hannah, I'm sure our audience wants to know about ghostwriting just a little bit more. Can you tell me how you got started?
Yeah, for sure. So I got started really out of necessity. I was about to move overseas again, and I needed work. And I was looking for some freelance opportunities online, and I stumbled upon Upwork. And this was about four and a half years ago, when the market wasn't quite as flooded with freelance work as it is now, or as freelance employees rather. And so I stumbled upon Upwork, and it really just grew from there. I started with a lot of short stories and really small projects, where I was making maybe $50, $80 per project. And it really grew. I got my first few clients who wanted novels about a year and a half into it. And then since then, it's primarily been the novels and the nonfiction, and then working outside of Upwork as well, finding clients through other channels and using like the Authors Guild resources and things like that as well.
So you're a member of the Authors Guild?
Yes. Yeah. Which I highly recommend for any author.
I was going to ask, what is the perk of being a member?
There are so many perks of being a member. Not only, once you are working with agents or publishing, they will do contract reviews for you. They have their new marketplace listings. So I'm able to advertise that I am a ghostwriter on there. And even when it was just kind of in the beta testing, I already had multiple people find me through it. They constantly have competitions being published or being advertised, and residencies. It's just a really great way to make connections in the industry. Also, my website is through them, and there are so many benefits to it. I can't recommend it enough. You also, if you're a member, you get discounts for certain things like Scrivener, just lots of different magazines and literary opportunities.
That is really good to know. I like that information. Let's talk about intercultural writing. Yeah. Describe that for me.
I guess that's a pretty broad topic. For me, the intercultural writing I mainly do is in terms of intercultural families. So whether that is, with my first novel, it was more of like romantically, because actually I started writing it even before I met my husband. So, but a lot of kind of the romantic aspects of being in a relationship with someone from another culture, that's really it adds some layers to life. Also living and working in different cultures, it's just something that, it's one thing to work in an intercultural context in America, where if you're an American and you're working with foreigners, but it's another thing to be working as the foreigner. And I've had a lot of experiences in that as well. And then my second novel is actually more familial in terms of it's a relationship between an aunt and then a niece who is half American and half Moroccan. So I just love working with different family situations in cultural contexts. I find that really interesting, really fun, and I've had some great experiences to draw from.
So, one of the big conversations that writers like to have is writing the other,
Mhm.
writing somebody from a perspective that you are not.
Yeah.
How have you handled those challenges?
Most of my writing, I do primarily write in first person. I like third person as well, but a lot of it is first person. And in that context, I'm pretty much writing from an American perspective, which I will admit is also kind of hard for me because I wasn't raised exclusively in America. So I I mean, I've lived in many countries and I was raised in many countries. So I do actually find that challenging as well, even though I am an American woman. Sometimes I don't necessarily understand that context either. Um, yeah. And then in the novel where there's the child who is half Moroccan and half American, um, I'm really passionate about research and talking to people from other cultures. And that project, it is third person. So I feel like there might not be the same type of pushback. Um, and then I am in, like I said, I mean, it's an experience that I have not had, but it's an experience that my son is going to be having. And I just, I think it's important to do a lot of research if you're going to be writing the other, and no matter what type of other that happens to be. Lots of research, lots of conversation, and really interacting with people. And then, of course, the sensitivity readers are a good resource as well, because it is hard when you're writing from another context. And years ago, before this became a conversation, um, I did write in other contexts, and then moving to countries where I've written characters from those countries, and then being like, oh, I was completely wrong in this. I thought I had done the research, but no, I hadn't. So yeah, just being really thorough with that and really talking to people who have lived in that context before.
Tell me about sensitivity readers.
I will start by saying they can be really hard to find. And that's another benefit of the Authors Guild, actually, is I've been able to find people through there. Um, for me, I think just finding people who, you know, you can just say, like, I'm not asking you to be an editor or anything. I just want to know, like, how this makes you feel, how accurate or inaccurate it is, if I'm relying on stereotypes, anything like that. I need you to tell me. And you might find sensitivity readers who, you're hiring them, or you might just have people in your circle. And that really depends. It's kind of like just with any beta reader in terms of, oh, I found this person who's willing to read my work, but am I hiring them? Are they someone in my circle? Are they a friend of a friend of a friend who's interested? And you kind of have those different options. But if you can't find someone who is of that specific demographic that you're searching for, then yeah, you might have to do a little bit of extra searching and rely on some other contacts.
I can imagine that the searching is a little challenging, and writers are often introverted. Having to go out and actually ask for help is a little bit different. We like to be able to do it all on our own,
Absolutely.
but I like the idea of reaching out to other authors to ask either their opinion or if they have guidance and direction that you could find somebody else.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
What are you working on now?
Right now, I just finished probably my favorite actually my favorite project ever. It was a nonfiction. And that was had more of a theological bent. I love theology, so that was a really fun project. And then currently I'm working on 3 different historical fiction novels. And I'm also preparing to host a few workshops. So those are kind of the things I've got going right now.
Tell me about the workshops.
One is for ghostwriting, and then one is for short story writing. And for each of those topics, there's a 1-day and a 2-day. So I've technically got 4 different workshops I'm preparing for: a 1-day ghostwriting, a 2-day ghostwriting, and then a 1-day short story and a 2-day short story workshop.
So, if you're going to give somebody advice on writing a short story, what might you tell them?
choose your words carefully. I think it goes whether it's a short story or a novel. How few words can you say this in to make it succinct? And I I find in ghostwriting that can be one of the trickiest things is my clients want me to hit a word count, and there are times when there's maybe not enough plot for that word count. Um, and then you kind of end up in this trap of like, oh, I have to be wordy. But I think even though I say that with ghostwriting, I think that can happen with any type of writing. It's like, I want to prove that I'm a great writer who can write a 100,000 word book, whether that's good for the genre or not. And then you get so set and focused on the word count that it maybe gets too wordy. And I think short story writing is a really good practice for it's just setting challenges for yourself, whether you're submitting to different competitions or whatever it might be. Give yourself a big plot and a really low word count and see if you can do it. Kind of have that opposite challenge that we sometimes give ourselves with novels and really see how few words can I use to make something beautiful out of this story.
So I recently read a book where exactly at the 25% mark, 50% mark, 75% mark were the various challenges that the protagonist would have to face. And do you like to write in formulas like that, or does it make it simple?
Again, it really just depends on the genre I'm writing. So again, kind of the difference between the literary writing I do and then the more formula fiction that I do for clients. That's what my clients want, so that's what I do. And if I'm being hired to do something, then it's not up to me, and I want them to be happy, and they want the readers to be happy. But when it's my work, my literary work, my short story work, I'm not super formulaic about it. I guess one of the things I also really like about literary fiction is that sometimes the climax is really anticlimactic because it's so much more true to real life that I don't know, I guess that's maybe not the best way to word it, but sometimes with literary fiction, there's not like this huge event. It's maybe just like a moderate turning point in the character's character and their nature. So yeah, I'm not super formulaic when I'm writing for myself.
I think it's a interesting concept where you talk about in real life, it tends to be a little less climatic than it could be in other types of fiction, which makes me think, would you like to leave things with a little bit of a cliffhanger?
I love a cliffhanger, which is why I'm not published yet. So my first novel, I have been in a revise and resubmit with an agent since that I met at the 2019 Florida Writers Conference. 2019, it's beginning of 2021 now, so it was a year and a half ago or possibly longer than that. And basically we sat down and she said, okay, that's the most interesting story I've heard this weekend. How does it end? And I told her and she said, no, go rewrite it, get back to me. Because it ended on a cliffhanger. And it was a standalone. So then I resubmitted and keep going with it. But anyway, yeah, I like leaving a little bit of a cliffhanger because it's real life, but I also understand that in the industry, especially for a first time author, that's not really an option.
Yes. Well, as a reader, we do like when things sort of fit together. We could put the book down and say, oh, I love those people.
Yes, exactly. I think I apologize because I don't know how to pronounce her name correctly. Maturi Vijay, I think it is. Her novel, The Far Field, was just, I read that book and I was like, oh my goodness, like this is the type of author I want to be and the type of author that I think readers read it and they're like, what? Why did you do this to me? Yeah, and I love books like that. I love a book that is going to ruin my day. I mean, I know that sounds silly, but they're so real. So yeah.
Ruin your day, ruin your makeup, the whole thing. I can remember in International Flight, I was reading, I don't remember the book, and it was a tearjerker. And I just sat there and the tears just kept flowing. And every time the flight attendant walked past, I'd be like, can I have some napkins?
I love
Oh,
that.
well. That's what the best part about those long international flights is you can just bring 2 or 3 books and complete them all by the time you land.
It's so much fun. By the time you've got Wi-Fi again, you just get on GoodReads and you're like, all right, check, 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 check. I love that.
That is good. Do you participate a lot in GoodReads?
I do. And this year has been really tough. I'm like 8 books behind on my yearly goal. I mean, it's not good, but it's been a really busy year for us in a good way. But yeah, I love GoodReads and I'm very active on there. It's the social media that I'm the most active on.
Do you check out any of the books you've ghostwritten when you're there?
Absolutely. I think it's crucial as a ghostwriter to read people's reviews. And a couple weeks ago, I was reading reviews and I was like, oh man, I need to step up my game a little bit. And because it had been a few months since I checked. And last time I checked, I was like, all right, things are going great. I always keep track of my star average and I'm very proud of the stars I've managed to maintain. And comparing GoodReads to Amazon, because Amazon's always a little bit higher. And then GoodReads is, tends to be a little bit more serious readers who utilize that as well. So I feel like on GoodReads, I can get a little bit more honesty, whereas on Amazon, I don't know if it's algorithms or what, but the stars are always a little bit higher, only by a little bit, but still it's important to check. And I think it's really good to check because like I said, I mean, I've been doing this for a few years and I've always had really good reviews. And then a few weeks ago, I found a book and I was like, okay, this wasn't great. And I need to make sure that I don't do that again. And my client was okay. And that's all been fine. And it's a regular client. So it's not, he knew it was a one-off, but still, I think it's really important to do. Yeah.
Hannah Edington Tekle, thank you so much for coming. How can people get in touch with you?
The best way is through my website. And I know my name's a little tricky, but it's HannahEdingtonTekle.com, HannahEdingtonTekle.com.
That's awesome. We'll make sure we put it in the notes.
Thank you.
And are you ready to switch to our rapid fire questions?
Yes.
Tell me about a coach who shaped your career.
Ooh. Oh man. Okay. I know this is rapid fire, but this is hard. I mean, there have been so many people. I think I'm going to go back to first grade. I had a first grade teacher who it was our first time writing books in class and stuff. And she saw how much I loved it. And so she basically had an impromptu conference with my parents and said, you need to foster this interest. And so, yeah, I think probably her.
That is a very influential person. That's right. Second question. Do you like to garden?
I love to garden. I love it so much. And bush beans are like my jam right now. I have a massive garden outside and we're about to get chicks too. So I'm excited for that.
Ooh, very good. Very good. Third and final question. What's the weather like outside right now?
It is sunny outside right now, which is great because it's been rainy and I'm in North Texas right now, so a few hours away. And it's been really crazy, interesting weather. And over the past week, it's either been sunny or tornadoes. But right now it's sunny. So, yeah.
I'll take the sunny. We can leave the tornadoes somewhere else. Send them back to Kansas.
Yes.
All right, Hannah, thank you so much for stopping by.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day.
You too. You have been listening to another edition of the Florida Writer Podcast with your host, Alison Nissen. Alison out. Hannah Edington Tekle is an author who uses fiction to illuminate life in developing nations and to show the multi-dimensional elements of foreign aid, charity, and economic empowerment in a way that both educates and entertains. She is a regular contributor for Conscious Magazine online, as well as writing for the Good News blog by Causebox and other journalistic opportunities. Working as a ghostwriter for the past 3 years, she has written more than 70 novels, as well as quite a few books on business topics for CEOs, thought leaders, and branded finance personalities. For more information about Hannah, visit her at her website, HannahEdingtonTekle.com. Join us for the 20th Annual Florida Writers Conference, October 14th through 17th, 2021. The Youth Conference is October 16th, 2021 in Orlando, Florida. See you there. For more information, visit floridawriters.org.